All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a really provocative theory, one that totally rethinks how global power works. And we're pulling it all straight from the text Bloodlines. So let's just jump right in. The central idea here is pretty stunning. It basically says that what we see, elections, presidents, prime ministers, that's all just a show. And behind that curtain, an ancient power structure has been in control the whole time, and, well, it's not going anywhere. All right, so first up, the unseen empire. This whole theory hinges on one core claim, that the real power in the world isn't in the hands of the governments we elect. Nope. Instead, it's held by this hidden network of families, of bloodlines, that have been around for generations. And this is absolutely key. Their authority doesn't come from a vote or a mandate. It comes from an unbroken line of, well, blood and money. It's an inherited empire that, according to this text, has been operating above the law way before our modern countries even existed. Okay, so who are these players? The text really hones in on three key groups at the very center of this whole network. Let's get into who they are. You've got the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and what the source calls the European black nobility. Now, these aren't just random names. The text presents them as the main guardians of this generational power structure. Each one plays a really specific but connected role in the grand scheme of things. And this is where it gets interesting. It's not just a static list of powerful families. The source lays it out as a kind of timeline, a succession of power. You see the old world model starting with the Venetians back in the 1200s. Then the Rothschilds come in and create a whole new banking model in the 1700s. And finally, the Rockefellers take it to another level by consolidating industrial power on a global scale. Each one builds on what the last one did. So let's look at that transition a little closer. What's so fascinating is how the source describes the shift. It wasn't about one group conquering another. It was more like an evolution. The Venetians created the prototype, right? They were the pioneers of public debt and international banking. But then the Rothschilds came along and basically put that system on steroids, scaling it up to cover entire continents. It was a move from the old aristocratic model to a new, incredibly agile financial machine. But how do they all stay connected? I mean, these are powerful dynasties. You'd think they'd be competing, right? Well, according to the text, they don't operate in a vacuum. They're all woven together into this single cohesive network. They do it through things like strategic marriages to keep the wealth and power in the family, so to speak. They pool their money for massive private ventures. And of course, they use these super exclusive clubs and secret societies like the Bilderberg Group to set global policy far, far away from any public scrutiny. So that's the who. Now let's get into the how. What are the actual tools they use to control things in the modern world? What are their weapons of influence? The core idea here is that they move all this historic wealth into financial structures that are incredibly sophisticated, totally private, and, well, completely opaque. We're not talking about a savings account at your local bank. This is a shadow financial system, built from the ground up to be untraceable. So tool number one. Family offices. You can think of these as a family's own private central bank. They manage everything, investments, legal stuff, even their influence campaigns, all with extreme secrecy. They're basically the command and control centers for all this capital. Then you have trusts and foundations. These are the legal magic tricks. They're super complex, often based offshore, and they do one thing really well. They separate the person who owns the assets from the person who benefits from them. This makes it almost impossible to figure out who truly owns what. And, the best part, it often comes with a nice philanthropic label, making fortunes untraceable and untaxable, all while looking like they're helping the world. And the final layer of this onion of secrecy? Shell companies. These are just anonymous corporate entities. They exist on paper to hold assets. Stocks, real estate, you name it. They create layer after layer of abstraction, like a set of Russian nesting dolls, making it a complete maze to find out who's really in charge. Okay, so you have all this hidden money. How do you turn that into actual control over the world? The source lays out this three-step playbook. First, you capture the political system by shaping laws. Then, you control the economy by influencing central banks and monopolizing resources. And finally, you control what people think by owning the media and setting the public conversation through so-called philanthropy. And this table really breaks it down for us. You can see the three channels: political, economic, and social. On the political side, you use lobbying and the revolving door between government and private industry to get the laws you want. Economically, you influence central banks and use debt to control entire nations. And socially, you own the media and use foundations to shape public opinion. The goal, according to this theory, is to just bypass democracy altogether, making sure private interests always win. All right, so controlling money in politics, that's huge. But you have to ask, right, what's it all for? What is the ultimate endgame here? Is it just about being rich? According to this theory, not even close. So what is the belief system that supposedly drives this whole centuries-long project? Because the source argues this isn't just about greed. No, the entire structure is built on something else entirely. A deep and very secret spiritual doctrine. At the heart of it is what the text calls an ancient mystery religion. And its worldview is, well, it's a complete inversion of what most people believe. It's a Gnostic and Luciferian system that says the God who created our physical world is actually a false God, and that Lucifer is the real hero, the liberator who brought knowledge, or gnosis, to humanity. So in this view, seeking power isn't a sin. It's the only path to true enlightenment. And this doctrine has some pretty wild tenets. There's as above, so below, which is about manipulating the physical world to control spiritual forces. There's astrotheology, worshiping the sun for power, Saturn for material gain. There's a core belief in bloodline purity, that they have a divine right to rule. And it gets darker, with mentions of ritual sacrifice to harness energy. All of this is hidden in plain sight through symbols in our media and architecture. It's a worldview that's completely alien to pretty much anything you've ever heard of. So what does this all mean for us? Well, the theory claims that huge global events, major crises, wars, economic collapses, they aren't just random accidents. They aren't failures of the system. They are managed outcomes. They are chaos, created on purpose to provide the perfect opportunity to consolidate even more power. And this is probably the most shocking claim in the whole text. The ultimate goal isn't just to rebel against God, it's to become God. That's the end game. It reframes everything. It's not about money anymore, it's about apotheosis, achieving godhood. So, according to the source, the real goal is to completely shatter the limits of what it means to be human, including things like empathy, compassion, morality. To them, these are weaknesses. And by shutting them through a sheer, unadulterated will to power, they believe they can achieve a higher state of being. That things we see as profoundly immoral are, in their worldview, just necessary steps to transcend humanity itself. So that brings us to the final lingering question this theory leaves us with. Is all of human history just a series of random accidents and coincidences? Or is it something else? Is it a meticulously executed plan unfolding right before our eyes? That's the thought we'll leave you with.